Remember what the sequence was in the Lindisfarne Gospels. Evangelist portrait, carpet page, opening words of the Gospel. In the book of Kells, the sequence is similar, but not quite the same. The first page in the sequence is a page showing all four of the evangelist symbols: angel, lion, ox, and eagle. This is on a left-hand page. The facing page is left blank. The next left-hand page has a picture of the evangelist, but only 2 of the original 4 evangelist portraits have survived, those showing Matthew and John. Here's the picture of Matthew. Like other male figures in the book of Kells, his beard has a curious crescent-shaped slit at the chin there. And notice that unlike the Lindisfarne Gospels, Matthew is not accompanied by his own symbol, the angel. But let's take a closer look now at the decoration of the throne before which Matthew stands. Here are 2 lions' heads. There is an ox head, there is an eagle's head. So we have allusions to the symbols of all the other evangelists. And the presence of the other symbols in the depiction of Matthew is surely meant to express the idea that while each of the evangelists presents his own account of the life of Christ, all are in basic harmony, all interrelate with one another. The picture of Matthew faces the opening words of his gospel, which we see here. Now, if you thought the script of the decorated pages in the Lindisfarne Gospels was a little difficult to read, it is much more difficult in the book of Kells. But again, you have a monogram in the upper left area formed of the letters L, I, and this is B. And then within the bow of the B, we have ER completing the first word, liber, the book. And there's only one other word on the page, which is in this area and pretty much impossible to read, but it's written in capitals and it says generationis. Liber generationis, the book of the generation. Just 2 words on that page. The only other evangelist portrait to survive in Kells is the picture of St. John. John holds his gospel in his left hand, with an unrealistically long quill pen in his right hand, and on the left here, stuck into the ground, is a horn that would have contained the ink that he used to write with. Ink was stored in horns, from which we get the term inkhorn, a hollowed out cattle horn. Now look around the edges of the page. We see feet here, we see hands here, and we see a chopped off head with a halo here. This page, alas, like other pages of the Book of Kells, was savagely trimmed by a binder at some point in its history when the manuscript was rebound, and we don't know exactly when. The head that's been chopped off had a halo around it, and surely the figure who is embracing the image of St. John was originally the haloed figure of Christ himself, and these circles that we see here in his feet are supposed to be the heads of the nails used to fasten his feet to the cross of the crucifixion. Okay, remind me. In the Lindisfarne Gospels, apart from the sequence of 3 decorated pages at the beginning of the Gospel, what was the only other page that got special treatment?
With the Christ.
Yes, it was the page beginning verse 18 of chapter 1 of Matthew, what we call the Christi Autem page, beginning Matthew's account of the birth of Jesus. In Kells, we actually have a sequence of 3 decorated pages at this point in Matthew's Gospel. First comes a picture of Christ himself holding the book of life in his hand, with smaller figures of worshipping angels and a seraph, there's the seraph, to either side of him. Let's zoom in on a detail. To left and right of Christ's head are depicted 2 peacocks, recognizable from the long colored feathers of their tails. What are peacocks doing here? Peacocks were held to be a symbol of incorruptibility because, according to legend, their flesh was so hard that it did not putrefy. In the early 5th century, the great theologian St. Augustine decided to put this legend to the test. One day, when he was at a banquet in the North African city of Carthage, Augustine was served with peacock. He ordered meat from the breast to be set aside. After 30 days, he found there was no bad smell. And after a whole year, the peacock's flesh had become only a little bit dried up. The peacocks here in the book of Kells symbolize the incorruptibility of Christ's flesh. The circles with crosses marking the peacock's wings allude to communion wafers. And lower down here we have chalices with vine stems and grapes above them, alluding to the communion wine. This image of Christ occupies a left-hand page. It faces a carpet page which incorporates a double cross design. Turn over the page and we have the opening words of Matthew chapter 1 verse 18. Again, we have the letters X, P, I, or rather, as you now know, Chi, Rho, I, abbreviating Christ's name. The rest of the page spills over with exuberant designs, not only interlacing spirals, but also this extraordinary figural scene, where 2 mice do battle over a communion wafer in the presence of 2 cats with mice mounted on their backs. What distinguishes the Book of Kells from all other insular Gospel books is that it goes far beyond them in both the amount and the elaborateness of the decoration. For example, it includes 3 pictures depicting key moments in Christ's life on earth. At the front of the book, following the canon tables, comes this depiction of the Virgin and Child surrounded by angels, alluding to Christ's birth on earth. Toward the end of Matthew's Gospel occurs this picture depicting the arrest of Christ after Judas had betrayed him. And within St. Luke's Gospel, immediately after the section of text describing Christ's baptism comes this image, representing Christ's temptation. The devil is here urging Christ to throw himself down from the top of the temple to prove that the angels will save him from hurting himself. It's worth emphasizing that these 3 scenes I've just shown you are the only narrative representations of events in Christ's life to be found in any of the insular Gospel books.